Action. Welcome to another excellent edition of the Action podcast. We are on episode 77 today, and today we've got a nice slate of films. Obviously, we took a week off just because it was a little slower on the movie front, but we're back in action, ready to go. The number one movie we're going to talk about, of course, is Apple TV's Killers of the Flower Moon. That is in theaters now, not available on Apple TV Live Plus yet, but it'll be out probably in 45 days because it's going to be a full theatrical release. So, and that, of course, is directed Martin Scorsese, stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert DeNiro, amongst others. And then next, we'll be talking about the number one movie in America for the past 2 weeks, which is Taylor Swift, The Eras Tour. And Pete and I were both able to check that one out, so we'll give you our review on that. And then third, we have Old Dads, which is starring and directed by Bill Burr and co-written by, and that's on Netflix now. Fourth, we have The Burial, which you can see on Amazon Prime now, which stars Jamie Foxx, Tommy Lee Jones. And lastly, we'll be reviewing The Royal Hotel, which you can see in select theaters now. So, Pete, let's get into the 3.5 hour Killers of the Flower Moon. I know we've talked briefly on this, but what are your thoughts?
Well, anytime you get Scorsese directing a film and starring Leo and Bobby D, it's going to be an incredible movie, which it was. I don't know if it was 3 hours and 45 minutes worth of time. It was really long. Now, when I first the lead up to this movie with the promotions behind it was pretty epic. In the same vein as like Oppenheimer, where they had a countdown for like a year in the theaters for Oppenheimer to be released. And, going into this film, I knew that this was going to be sort of neck and neck with Oppenheimer for my top film of the year. I had high hopes for this one. I still think that Oppenheimer is a better film. I still think that Cillian Murphy is going to win Best Actor. I still think Robert Downey Jr. is a shoo-in for Best Supporting. But that's not to take away from what Leo did and what Bobby D did on this film and what Scorsese did as a director. Great story, historical. It's very factual. I thought Lily Gladstone, who plays the wife, the Indian woman, I thought that this was her film. I thought she crushed.
Yeah.
I think that she should get all of the praise that comes out of this movie. If there's anything positive that you can take out of this film, it's her performance. And she takes you through every little bit of the journey. She goes through every little bit. And you're right there with her. I expected something slightly different before going into this film. I think the previews showed one thing, and the way that this was just strictly a very linear film was another. Now, again, this is an 8.2 film on IMDb, and I agree with it. It's a great film. But I'm not talking about Christopher Nolan's masterpiece like Oppenheimer, which people will be talking about whenever they talk about his career.
Yeah.
With Scorsese, they're not going to talk about this film. They're going to talk about Goodfellas before they're going to talk about this film. They're going to talk about Casino before they talk about this film.
Wall Street even.
But it is very good. Leo, I felt was slightly underwhelming again, but I think that's just because of the buildup and because of the previews. I thought that his character was kind of subdued, and maybe that was the point of his character. I need to see this film again if I have an extra 9 hours sitting around
to
rewatch this film. It's a long film, but it's really good. And there you go.
Yeah, I think this is not a perfect film. I do think everybody should see it at least once, but it's kind of like The Irishman in that sense. It's to me, it's like you're kind of in between two worlds of make this a TV series or make this 3 hours, even 2 in large change. I didn't feel it needed to be 3.5 hours. It's just not that deep of a story, and it added so much information and was so compelling that it needed to be that long. You're just not going to sell me on that. There's going to be film critics and that type of world that just thinks, the academic world will think, hey, it's Martin Scorsese, everything he does is perfect. But all of his movies run long. He's him and Michael Mann, who also makes great movies. They both have this inability to cut things out. And this movie's not efficient in any stretch of the imagination.
You could easily trim an hour off of this film.
Easily trim it. And you're not missing a thing. And anybody that says that is lying, because not everything is needed. Again, it is based on a novel. And this, we've said this before, there's a difference between a novel versus a film. And I don't need to see everything for me to understand his character, or the characters and all that stuff. I think where this movie, and you kind of mentioned it before, this story really is about Lily Gladstone's character, but they stray into making it be. And I think the mistake here is maybe putting Leonardo DiCaprio in this role. I believe in the real history, his character is part of this. It's really Robert DeNiro's character, and it's Lily Gladstone's character, and then Leonardo DiCaprio's character is a conduit. But they make him, obviously, he's technically the protagonist in this. The way they set it up, it should be more geared towards her, but they almost make it 3 protagonists, and that's what adds to the length. Which I don't know if it serves the story its true justice, because if they just focused on her, you can cut out a lot of this other stuff, and then because it is linear. It's not like there's parts where it's entertaining, and of course Scorsese adds his creative directing style, but I don't need 3.5 hours of it. I just don't.
And I appreciated his because Scorsese likes to do things in films that people just don't do, that are sort of against the rules. And I won't spoil it, because I'll let you guys go and check it out yourselves. But what he does for the ending of this film was quite clever, and it was a big risk. Like, that could have really been bad. It was so different, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a nice little bow at the end of this very large, long gift. Like, for example, we all know that this story is about murdering of Indian people on this Indian land. Maybe show 4 of the murders instead of 12 of the murders. Like, that alone, you could have trimmed 30 to 45 minutes right there.
I got it. I get it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, this is bad. They're killing everybody. Like, I get it. But at the end of the day, like, if you love cinema and you love Scorsese and De Niro and even DiCaprio's performance is still great. It's still great. Yeah. This is a must see. I just, when the previews came out, I really thought that the way it was sort of presented, I thought Leo's character was sort of going up against Robert De Niro's character, and the previews really made him out to be like you were saying, like the protagonist of this film, but he was just as involved as Robert De Niro. Like, he wasn't a good person in this film. He may have loved his wife, but he was still trying to, in essence, kill her, right? Like,
and I think that's what they were. I think that's ultimately what they were trying to portray as well, is the fact that you're still questioning. You're still questioning if this guy's a good guy or not. And is he who we think he is, or there's almost no way that Leonardo DiCaprio is just the pure villain in a way, right? So I think that's, but I think it's because it's Leonardo DiCaprio. And I think if Leonardo DiCaprio isn't this guy, and it's another actor that's not such a big name, I feel like we play this story straightforward, because again, in the real life story, he's just a guy anyway, right? Nobody knows who this guy is. So, and it was a common practice, and they do a good job of setting up the surroundings and the culture of that area. But again, I think Leonardo DiCaprio, in a way, almost does this story a disservice, because it's like you have to give him this much screen time.
And it was always, it's always nice to see John Lithgow in a role because he's really good.
A lot of great cameos. Brendan Fraser.
I didn't care for Brendan Fraser at all in this film. I didn't like him.
You
But
didn't like him?
no, I didn't like. Maybe it was his character. I didn't think it fit the time period. I didn't think it fit the story. It was so over the top in a way, or at least that first scene. The next scene, he kind of brought it down, and then we started to see some real Brendan Fraser. But that 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 first introduction to him in the film was like so over the top. But maybe that was a point again, like the Leo character. Like maybe the point of his character was to be one way, and I took it as another way. But
I mean,
I
I
don't
thought,
know. I feel like I'm bashing this film, and I'm really not. It's really good. It's just it's a lot for that. It was such an investment that for that sort of investment, I expect a little bit more of a return.
yeah, yeah. And again, I think when you've mastered timing, pacing, editing, you it'll go faster. I think that's the most daunting thing going into this film. It's just like, man, do I really have 4 hours? Like I have to have 4 hours to kill to watch this. And again, I think it's worth it once. But again, I think this movie's gonna be hurt. Like I love Dance with Wolves, and I can watch that movie over and over and over again. And that movie was an absolute journey, but it worked. And there is a 4 hour
That was
version.
considered an epic at the time. This
Oh, it still is.
that's a movie short compared to this movie at this point.
Well, the original is actually 4 hours, and I've seen that version too, and I love it. But I think that movie does a good job pacing it. I think, see, and this is what this movie could have done too, right? Is make the 3 hour version for theaters, because I think there's a big difference between watching it in theaters versus watching it at home. Make your 3 hour version, even your 2 hours and 45-minute version, and then you make this director's cut where you include all this stuff, and then you appreciate it that much more.
And you put it on Apple. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, because I
the
think
Ring style.
it's yes, the extended versions, right? Like I couldn't do the extended version in a theater because you're just sitting there and they don't give you an intermission like they used to do back in the day. And so I think I think there's a smarter way to do it, and this wasn't it. And
Yeah.
you can
Halfway through this
that.
film, and then I get that animated. Let's all go to the lobby.
Yeah. Moving on to the big movie, like I mentioned, this is #1 in the box office now. I believe it's made 300 million, Pete, and I heard it's only cost $15 million to make. She's brilliant business person. That's how you do business, guys. You make a movie for 15 million of her own money, mind you. She spent 15 of her own money, and it is now at 178 million worldwide. So that's called a great return of investment. And it's going to be out again this weekend. So it'll collect more, probably collect another 50 at least. But Taylor Swift. So, like I mentioned, I'm not a crazy Taylor Swift fan. I wouldn't even use the word fan. I respect her. She's got some good songs that are catchy. So I kind of went in this movie just like, hey, I'm gonna go have a good time. I'm happy I spent the $20 versus 500 plus or whatever it was to go to the actual concert. But
thousands sometimes.
yeah. But this was shot at SoFi Stadium, and the camera work is solid. And yeah, it's no frills. It's literally just you're watching her concert,
You're
and
literally watching a concert.
yeah, and it's entertaining. I had a good time. I did not need to stay for the whole time, just because like I said, I'm not a huge concert guy in real life, nevertheless on the theater. So like I got a good taste of it with about 2 hours worth of content, and I'm like, okay, good. And I had a good time. I walked out. I was happy, and it was totally worth seeing it. I'm glad I saw it in theater. Great experience. I think obviously if you go in groups and stuff like that, it's probably even better, making more of an experience of it, kind of like how people did with Barbie. I feel like that's kind of like the way to go. You have a good time with your friends and or your kids or whatever, and have a good time with it. But yeah, I mean, it was great.
Yeah, my daughter's a big fan, and which makes me a big fan. I mean, you can't deny the talent. I mean, she was literally like every time she started singing a new song, you were like, "Oh my God, that's another song that I know." Like she has so many hits. The visuals as well were really amazing. Like you said, the camera work was really good. The sound was really good. from what I could hear, because the people that you're sitting next to are singing along with every song, and so it's hard to hear the actual Taylor Swift sing. But this is a solid watch. Definitely take your kids to go see this one. If they like Taylor Swift, they're going to go bananas. And there's a reason why this is such a brilliant move. When your concerts get sold out and have already made 5 billion or something crazy like that on this tour alone, how do we get more money out of this? Let's just release a film of the show itself. I mean, there's people who are not going to spend thousands of dollars to go see Taylor Swift. They'll spend 20.
But that's what I look at it more or less of, how can we get more money out of people versus, because this is ultimately about demand. And I felt like this was because again, I'm not going to go to a Taylor Swift concert, but I'll go to this because I'll pay $20 versus I'm not going to pay, $1,000 to go see this. And so for me, this was a way to give access to your entire fan base versus a specific fan base that's willing to spend multiple hundreds of dollars, if not thousands.
You get people who aren't fans as well because of just the actual word of mouth and the curiosity behind this film. I mean, she's really made a ton. And this was a brilliant move. And this is as close to an experience of being in one of her concerts as you're going to get, because there's no real sort of immersive VR experience where you can actually be at the concert, even though you're in a theater or at your house or something like that. But this was as close as you could get.
That's next, though. I feel like that's next. Like
amazing.
This
was brilliant. This was a great move. It was a good time, and it was really well done. It wasn't just 3 cameras set on her doing a concert. I mean, there was real thought put into this, real camera moves, backgrounds, everything blended together. The concert was even broken up into albums so that she basically took her audience on a journey, and it was really well done.
Yeah, awesome. So next we have Old Dads, and that is directed by Bill Burr, as well as he stars in it, along with Bokeem Woodbine and Bobby Cannavale, with Katie Aselton of The League fame. And Bill Burr also wrote this along with Ben Tischler, who's also a producer of this. Yeah, Pete, I'll start with you on this one. What were your thoughts?
Bill Burr's directorial debut. I thought he did a great job. I mean, it's a nice story. There's some real heart to it. As a dad, you can sort of relate to a lot of his scenarios, and he and I have a very similar mindset when it comes to dealing with people who are kind of stupid and people who just, their only existence seems to be to like just bust your balls for no reason at all. It's just, power hungry. People think that they have a little bit of power and they want to just mess with you for it. Now, you are going to enjoy this film. There's some real comedy. Like I said, it's heartfelt. It's a good watch. It's a great story. Being a big Bill Burr fan, I've seen all of his stand-ups and I know all of his routines virtually by heart. And I really do feel like the only thing that I would have done a little bit differently is I would have taken maybe some of the stuff that was in his stand-up routines that I've seen before and maybe try to create new scenarios. So I didn't feel like I was just watching, like Seinfeld, for example. Like Seinfeld took his stand-up routines and he made some great comedy with it. And I think that this was sort of along those sort of veins where I've heard this material before, and I heard it at a stand-up comedy show. It's nice to see it in real life because you get to see him acting and he's really good. That would be my only critique of it, but that's really, I mean, I'm nitpicking. I'm being a little bit of a bastard.
I agree that you're nitpicking on that. I have no problem. You said kind of the same thing with Sebastian Maniscalco. And again, like that's part of, again, if you can incorporate into a story seamlessly, I think it absolutely works because I like watching, again, part of what makes I love
this trumps
it's not even close.
Movie easily. Not even close.
Not even close. I would actually say as an overall comedy, I think it's my favorite of the year. I don't think it's the
better than Joyride.
Not what I'm using parameters here. I think Joyride is the purest, funniest one, like the hardest laughs. but I think this is like the best comedic film overall, because I think this one has more heart, a little more ups and downs to it.
Yeah.
Like I said, the story I think is
I
actually really,
related a lot to this film.
yeah, and even I related to it, even though I'm not necessarily an old dad. But I did real
It is old.
I could relate to it more, and I could relate to the situations more. And I think again, I just love the making fun of some of these situations, and how he handles it. It's I just love watching Bill Burr get angry, and
And
so
I love just being able to say finally what you want to say every single time somebody gets in your face in a
yeah,
way where it's just so unjustified, and you have to be polite, you have to act a certain way in this society, and I'm in West Los Angeles and you have to act a certain way. But man, if you could just kind of say what's on your mind sometimes, it's just you're watching this film and you're like, oh man, it's almost like a dream. That sort of he's from New York, like Larry David. They come to LA and keep that New York sort of in your face. I'm
always
just
from
gonna
Boston.
say whatever I want.
Boston.
That's good. I want to do that.
Yeah, like one of my favorite scenes. There's two scenes I really loved. One of them was when he goes to apologize. He goes to apologize to the principal, but the principal's like, "Oh, we're a community, we're a village, so you have to apologize to everybody." And then so
Oh, that was so awkward.
all these fucking sideline people are like, "You affected me," blah blah blah, right?
I wasn't even there, but I heard about it and I was affected by it.
Yeah.
It's like, go fuck
And
yourself.
so, but it just the best part though, again, this is the difference between stand up versus his versus an acting, is his expression alone is hilarious, because he's now just reacting to the shit, and that alone like makes me laugh. Like I literally was laughing out loud just his reaction shots. And again,
Yeah.
that's brilliant comedy, right? And then there's a guy that's like, oh, I took offense to the fact that you called her stubby, and as a guy that's dealing with his own body, and like he just goes into like in the body shaming stuff. And then and then Bill Burr's response to that is, well, look, since we're a community, we should be able to talk about, like obesity is a big American topic, and he just
Yeah.
completely goes on a side tangent. And it's just, and then the wife again, brilliant comedy. They cut to the wife reaction shot, and she's just like, wrap it up, but he's like, yeah, wrap it up. But again, this is when you do it right, you're able to build off of a comedy routine, and then you're adding all these other great comedic elements, which is reaction shots and playing off of another character. Again, that's what Seinfeld did so well. Is obviously
He had a great supporting staff. Even the smaller characters, like Bokeem Woodbine was, I thought, as the third friend, was incredible.
or second friend, depends on how you.
Or second friend.
Yeah. I mean, they were equal, him and Bobby Cannavale, but they had good balancing of the different characters. Like, and I love the fact that they did smart with doing three. And then Katie Aselton also crushed it. I wish she was a little bit more of her lead character, because I love her lead character. Where she's almost like Bill Burr in a female route. She was a little more subdued, and I get why she had to be that way, but I almost would have loved
Yeah,
her.
that would have messed with the actual story, though.
I know. I wish she had a little bit more of a chip to her shoulder, just because but I think she needs to do more comedies, because she is maybe
good.
one of my favorite comedic actresses. I just haven't seen her a ton in these roles. And I think, again, to all your writer directors, she's super talented, and we need to see more of her. Oh, her and Leslie Mann. She's got a lot of Leslie Mann to her. And I'd like to see her kind of do more roles with that. But yeah, ultimately it's on Netflix. Check it out. I've already watched it twice.
Good.
And I'll keep watching it, because I think it's a really, really good comedy. And again, it's my favorite of the year. Joyride's, I think, the hardest comedy, but I think this is, again, overall is a great film. Number one comedy of the year. So next, Pete, we have The Burial, which you could see now on Amazon Prime, starring Jamie Foxx and Tommy Lee Jones. And I think you like this one more than I do. I thought this was a very solid film, very good. I think, and again, I think I probably would have liked it better in a theater, only because this is this is just the movie you need to stay focused on. And again, when you're watching at home, it's just very easy to get distracted. But this has a 7.1 on IMDb, which is obviously is very good. I wouldn't be surprised if this did get some sort of Oscar love or Golden Globe love, maybe. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think there's just too many stronger films this year, but I agree. Performances alone should get something, but they're not going to.
yeah,
If Till's not going to get any love, then this movie's not going to get any love.
Jamie Foxx was excellent, and he's had a really good year, by the way. I don't know. I feel like he didn't do anything for a couple years, or at least took some time off to do some other ventures. And this year, he's really come back strong, especially considering he had that health stuff. And I'm assuming all this stuff got shot before that. But I mean, he's had what, 4 films now?
He did Strays. He did They Clone Tyrone.
This, and I thought he did one other one.
The one
that was last summer.
Day Shift.
Day Shift. That was last year.
And then we hadn't seen him since Spider-Man No Way Home, but other than that,
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, very strong year for him. I mean, he's perfect for this role.
So good.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this film. Just a really good watch. It's kind of the corporate versus small town guy battle, but then the movie's got some good twists and turns, and just a good kind of lawyer movie if you like those kind of things.
Great lawyer movie.
Yeah.
Alan Ruck plays a great character that just is somebody who's really loyal and just happens to be white and has some racist tendencies. And those scenes with him in a room with 7, 8 black guys could get pretty intense. But I thought he played his role really well.
Yeah.
Tommy Lee Jones, I don't think I've seen him in a while. And he was a very subdued, but rightfully so. I mean, that's the way his character, I think, was supposed to be. But I thought his performance was really good. But the star of this film is Jamie Lee Foxx. Jamie Foxx. I thought that his performance was probably second to none. I would put that performance up there with some of the better. I think this was a better performance than Leo and Flowers in the Flower Moon or whatever, to be honest. If I had a gun to the head, Jamie Foxx's performance in this film was leaps and bounds above Leo. Which is what people are going to talk about. That's all people are going to talk about is Leo's performance. But Jamie Foxx crushed this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So yeah, check it out again on Amazon Prime now. And then lastly is The Royal Hotel, which you can see in select theaters now.
Which I did not see.
That is directed by Kitty Green. And she directed some films with acclaim, The Assistant, Casting John Bonet, amongst others. And this got a 6.6 on IMDb. So very solid movie. This movie stars the biggest person is Julia Garner, and you're gonna know her from Ozark.
Yep.
And then it also stars Jessica Henwick. She was in Glass Onion, and then she did a role in the Gray Man, Blade Runner, The Matrix. It's probably actually what most people will know her from, the last Matrix movie, Resurrection. But you know her face. She's done a couple things. And this is an interesting film. This is the ultimately, just real quick on the movie, it's about 2 kind of travelers, U.S. backpackers. Actually, they're Canadian. I don't know why it says U.S. 2 Canadian backpackers that they're one of those people that go on, say, a cruise ship, and they don't really have an end date of their trip. They just kind of go from one thing to another.
Right.
Kind of run out of money. And so they need to get a job to kind of keep the journeys going. So they end up taking a job at a pub at this hotel in like a remote Australian town that mainly the clientele is like miners. And so this is
very on the road, the Jack Kerouac book. It's a very on the road style, it sounds like.
Yeah. So
you just travel and you got to get a job if you need to continue.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you're kind of on the journey with them. It's got some tense moments. It's kind of a unique kind of feel. Like this is definitely a kind of a cross genre film where it's not like one thing and another. It's not like a pure thriller or pure. It's got really good moments of tension and uneasiness, and then also like fun times and unique characters. Oh, you know who else is in this, Pete? What's his name? Hugo Weaving. Hugo Weaving is it. I didn't recognize him at first. But he's of course is from The Matrix and Lord of the Rings. But he's the bar owner. And so yeah, these two ladies just kind of embark with different characters, and yeah, you just always have this feeling that something's going to go wrong, and so you're just kind of on the edge of your seat. But it's well paced. I really enjoyed this movie. I doubt you'll be able to see it in theaters at this point, but when it comes out on streaming, I thought it was a good watch, so I recommend it. Just a solid film, like no frills. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's on my list.
Awesome. So with that, Pete, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Then there's 2 movies upcoming, nothing huge, but one of them is Five Nights at Freddy, which I believe I know it's going to be on Peacock at some point because Universal made it. Because they were even showing advertisements for it at Universal Studios. It'll also be in theaters as well, but not sure if it's going to be
looks super silly, but sometimes when you get presented with those trailers and you're like, what did I just watch?
Yeah.
Sometimes they end up being really good. So I can't wait.
Like a Megan. It might be like a Megan.
Megan almost.
It kind of has like a lighter tone, but still creepy and awkward. And then the other film is called Anatomy of a Fall. And that's kind of a murder mystery type of a film that takes place in France, I believe. But that was a big movie at Cannes, and it was either the selection of Palme d'Or or it won it. But it's a highly critical film and is doing very well on the word of mouth. And so that might be a very good sneaky film to watch. So
if you're a documentary fan, today on Paramount Plus on Tuesday, October 24th, the Milli Vanilli documentary finally comes out. So nice. I'm excited.
Yeah, we'll check that one out too.
I will have a full report.
Awesome. So that's going to wrap it up for us, guys. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe. Help us in this journey. We'll keep reviewing films for you to help you figure out what to watch. And if you can please just again keep showing us support by doing the liking, the commenting. If there's a movie that we have not reviewed that you've seen, throw it on there, and maybe we'll throw you on the podcast as well. So with that, Pete, that is a cut. Thanks, guys.